Alright. I don't know if anyone's in here, but I'm gonna get started anyway. Okay. Studying poker with AI. Wow. Interesting stuff. Okay, let's get started. Alright, so these are my notes from the last 2 days. At the moment I take Monday, Tuesday off, so that's usually the most studying I'll do throughout the week. But yeah, these are my notes from those days, and I'm just gonna kind of go over them. A lot of these notes have like links to GTO Wizard at the bottom, like for each spot that I go over, so if I come up with like a new question to explore, or just something I just didn't pick up the first time I went through it, I can go back, look, add to the notes I have, and yeah, rinse, repeat, do this stuff again every day you're not playing, pretty much, depending on how much of a nerd you are. Okay. Alright, so the first one here, zoom in. So, pretty early game, top left. Only 75% of the field remain. So, pretty early game. We got the hijack opening. It's 60 effective. Everybody's 60 big blinds. So, and in case you don't, if I don't say something, you can check the stacks right here on the top right. Sometimes you might not see the effective stack because it takes out chips that are already put in the pot. So even though everybody started with 60, some of these guys are like 57.9 because they raised or called. Okay, so hijack opens. We get a button flat call and a small blind flat call. And my notes were folding bottom suited hands. And then I guess I ran it again. If the small blind folds, we're calling every suited hand. So I think I didn't save the hand that I was looking at this, but I'm pretty sure I had 8-3 suited here and I folded. So I just wanted to like double check I was thinking in the right direction. Like if I fold 9-4 suited here or something, like who cares? It's worth 0.01 as long as you're not folding like 9-6 suited here or something stupid. Or like if you're, I mean, even these offsuit hands are pretty worthless, but I would say if you're folding like 7-6 off, maybe you should rethink that. But anything that's really close is it's not where you're gonna lose money if you miss like by one hand here. Okay, so yeah, if the small blind folds, it's only, we're defending 4-way right now, but if the small blind folds, now it's only 3-way, and even though we're getting like technically worse of a price, we're also up against one less range. So the more people we're playing against, we actually start to fold more, which makes sense. Like you don't want to have like 8-3 of spades here, right? And you're versus 3 other people and the flush gets there, like, and your deep stack, you're 60 effective, like a lot of the times, like, yeah, you might get some value from like a set or like some 2 pairs, but a lot of the times also they're gonna have a bigger flush than you and stack you for the most part. So they're not that valuable to have. If you can make a flush but not a straight, the hand is pretty low EV, essentially, especially 4-way. Okay, next one. Looks like it's also 75% left. My note is not bad to fold some bottom suited hands versus tight opener or aggro. Someone who c-bets too much, and oops, and uses overly large sizes. So I guess this is another big blind spot. Under the gun opens and under the gun 1 flat, so the two tightest positions are in the hand, and we're in the big blind. Everybody's 60 effective, so it's the same sim as the last spot. But now it's under the gun and under the gun 1 opening, and now we're in the big blind defending. And again, these bottom suit hands are played more, and it's probably because we're only 3-way, opposed to being 4-way in that other spot. So they become a little better to play. But if you look at the EV, that number on the bottom right, like 9-3 suited is 0.01. Now let's compare that to like aces here, for example. Aces is worth 3.52. Obviously the best hand you could have here. Pre-flop. There's no there's no flop yet, so aces is obviously the nuts. So we're comparing the very best hand we can have here is 3.52. And then we look at 9-3 suited is 0.01. So, you know, if you could find like I think that's why I put this like specific note here. If you verse like, if you see that their PFR is like really low, like 13-14%, maybe lower, I would start to fold these bottom suited hands, even 3-way. Also, if you know they're like very aggressive pre-flop or post-flop, like they're using really big sizes, or they're just betting like a ton. Some of these bottom hands, I'm pretty sure, lose EV and get worse. So that's another reason to like fold some hands that you would normally call, in theory. I think that's really it here. Let's look at these squeezes. So I mean, we're squeezing some like king jack suited here. I probably wouldn't find this, to be honest. Versus under the gun. I would, without looking at this, I feel like I would squeeze like king 10 suited here. Ace queen off for sure. I like king 10 suited, but I guess it doesn't like it as much. I guess versus under the gun, king jack is just better, because they're not going to have a lot of jack X anyway, right? Like under the gun, I guess, opens some king jack offsuit, but under the gun's not flatting the offsuit jack X. I don't think they're flatting much offsuit anything. I mean, it's not like you have to bluff a lot. Like ace queen off is enough. King 10 suited. I guess, I guess there's some merit to squeezing like the king queen suited, just like for value. But I'm pretty sure you're gonna fold if they re-raise. I'm not gonna look at it, but I'm pretty sure at the stack depth you fold. But I've also seen some spots where like it's 50 effective and you can like squeeze call like king jack suited, so always not 100% sure, but it's usually better to like be tighter than looser, I guess, if you're not 100% sure, would be my guess. I'm not sure if that's like it sounds like it makes sense, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, next spot. Trying to not go too slow because it's pretty late already. So this is like using the AI feature here. That's why it looks a little different than the previous one. So we're 80 effective, and it's hijack opening, cut off, flat calling, pre-flop. Okay, so it's jack 10-7 rainbow, and we check to the cutoff. And they're betting pot, So just looking at that surprised me a little bit, so that's probably in my notes. Probably just in general bet larger, but like I need to get better at understanding, because this is like a less commonly played spot. Like usually you're like heads up, like you're either in position or you're in the big blind calling. So when you're like these flat call spots, I'm a little worse post flop. I'm actually getting a lot better at it, but I think understanding what boards are good in position and what sizings to use, I think I'm a little weak at. So like 100% like threw me off here. Like I could see betting like, I mean we're 80 effective, so I thought, you know, I've seen these lower boards bet larger. Oh no, excuse me, I thought the lower boards bet smaller. And then like the ace high, king high boards, you actually bet larger in position, just because like your betting range is so narrow that it causes you to like size up. But I could be wrong. That's just what I remember looking at previously. But yeah, anyway, let's see what my notes are. So yeah, size up larger, not surprised. Okay, I guess I'm literally just regurgitating my thoughts yesterday. Still need to understand the sizing of these spots. This is good to note here. Like, so if I bet, let's say I'm betting 33% pot here instead of 100% pot, I am actually losing 10% EV in this spot, which is pretty large. And the way I figured that out is you can change the sizing here. I changed it to 33, and then you click this bottom symbol on the bottom. I could actually show you it here. Why not? It's gonna take a few seconds to load, but that was surprising. Sometimes I'll do that. Like if I see like a solver like plays quite differently than what I did, I'll check how I would play in that spot and then compare the EV, and if it's like, if the EV's like the same, I'll kind of, you know, throw it away and not, because, you know, you only have so much time to learn things, and if it's not gonna like, if it's not a big EV difference, like why study it? At least for now, you know what I mean? So, you know, so this spot, it recommends it. It's on a setting where the solver or the AI, whatever it's using, it recommends a sizing for you to use. Generally, it uses one sizing, and then sometimes it'll add like an all-in sizing if it's appropriate. But it purposely doesn't use like multiple sizings, so, which I kind of like. I've been using this in my own game. Instead of like trying to like split my sizings, I've just been trying to understand the flop texture and bet a sizing, the same sizing every time, but like appropriate to that flop texture, like how it does it here. It's suggesting that, you know, 100% is the most valuable like betting size to use here, and then it comes up with a range to, you know, we're only betting 35% of our hands because we're betting a large sizing. Sometimes you bet your entire range as an overbet. Sometimes that happens, but usually a rule of thumb is like when you're betting large, you're not betting too much of your range. I would say that's kind of like a loose rule, but it's not always true. So anyway, let's change this to 33%. So let's say, you know, you're not like comfortable with this spot and you're betting 33% instead of like large. Okay, so we compare the nodes. The previous is on the right and the current is on the left. So on the left we bet 33%, on the right we bet pot on the flop. The EV of the cutoff, which is what spot were we in again? We're in the cutoff. Where's the hijack here? Okay. so the EV of the cutoff goes down from 3.98 to 3.71. That's a pretty big drop. Because if you think about it like this... Hey, what's up, Gasto? Yeah, sure. It's not that loud for me, but I'm not sure how it sounds for you. I'll turn it down a peg. Hey, thanks for hanging out. So yeah, so... I'm drawing a blank now. What would you do here? You do, 3.98. I'm just trying to, like, show that it's a lot. Minus 3.71. 0.27. What do you divide that by 3.98? Is that right? It's a 7% loss in EV. I'm better at doing this stuff in my head. If it's 0.28 difference, okay, it's probably around 7%. Yeah, I mean that's like, you know, that's a pretty big loss. Like I've been looking at these I've been checking this a lot, and it's rare to see that much of a loss unless you do unless you change up the strategies like significantly. Which, you know, 33% to pot is a significant change, but it was a lot of EV, and it kind of shocked me a little bit because you don't see that much of a difference. Like sometimes I'll put in a sizing where I think, you know, maybe it's something I would have used instead of like what the solver suggests. So I'll see how it wants to play using my sizing, and then I'll compare the nodes looking here, and like the EV difference would be like 0.01, 0.02, like, you know, nothing. So like it's not that big of a deal. But like when you see a difference like this, 6.8% EV is quite a lot. I mean, it's only one spot, so it's not like you're constantly playing this spot over and over, but it does add up because you play it sometimes, right? So I thought that was interesting. Close that, I think. I wrote around 10% EV loss, but I guess it's like 7%. Betting deuces will fold out 3s through 6s and 7s in theory. Not sure if population's gonna fold pocket pair on the flop. I guess for pot they definitely will. So never mind on that. So yeah, you could see like deuces kind of likes betting here, and 3s does a little bit too. I think it's better to not have a diamond or something. That's why, like, I'm not going to open it because it's not that big of a deal, but if you bet deuces and 3s here, our opponent is supposed to, you know, on the Jack 10-7 board, our opponent's supposed to fold their pocket deuces, their pocket 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. Wait, why did I read 7s? Clearly not going to fold a set. What was I thinking instead? Was it 8s maybe? Clearly not folding a set. Okay. Lots of pairs. Even top pair. Oh, this was another interesting spot. Lots of like board pairing. Single pairs on the flop are supposed to fold in theory versus the pot size bet. And yeah, I bet no one finds these folds. So like, I guess opening this is a good idea. So never mind, don't even look at that. So if we bet pot on the flop, hijack is... Oh, folding 8s, that's what I meant to write, okay. So Matt, I wouldn't think folding 8s is good here. Like you have the straight draw, plus you have a draw to a set. You know, that's 6 pretty, you know, sort of clean outs. I guess the set's not that clean, but it's clean enough. Like how much 9x is cutoff gonna have here? Probably not a lot. I guess they have some. What was I gonna look at again? So if I bet pot on the flop, oh, so I thought this was very interesting. So imagine having top pair on the flop here and folding. But if you look at the bottom right, king jack of diamonds is just a fold to one bet. Isn't that like, I don't know, that surprised me. Queen jack diamonds fold. I mean, a pot size bet is large, but we are deep. So, I don't know. Like, you would think, like, with the backdoor straight draw, like, I could see folding, like, you know, if we had jack 6 suited in our range, you know, that would make more sense to me. Obviously, calling jack 8 and jack 9 are really good. The EV is very high calling, because you have the straight draw to go with it as well, but queen jack, you know, break even call. King jack off, more of a fold, because you have less backdoor potential, right? Just interesting folds here. King 10. Pretty much if you have a pair without a backdoor flush draw, it's not even like, it's not that bad to fold. Except for like ace jack. Ace jack's still really strong. Are they betting any? Yeah, I mean they bet some king jack. Not really. Like most of the stuff they're betting is just beating ace jack or, you know, bluffing. What else was I gonna say here? That's it. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is a little bit different now. We're short stacked. Looks like we're 25 effective. Button versus big blind. Looks like we c-bet the flop small. Big blind calls, and then the ace of hearts on the turn. So there's no flush draw on the turn. You know, a pretty common occurrence. Not that common, but common enough. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic when the turn doesn't bring in a flush draw. We're gonna start having some very weird bluffs. Like it wants to bluff all these bottom suited hands. So like you're in position here, ace king deuce, you c-bet, they call. Ace on the turn, they check to you again, which is always happening, and then you're supposed to fire 3/4 pot with 9-6 suited. You have no draw. 8-6 suited, no draw. Why? Because there's not like as much, because there's not enough draws to bluff with. We have to start, it starts like taking hands from the bottom of your range and turning those into bluffs. But like if the flush draw, if it turns a flush draw, like maybe it's the ace of spades, now there's a flush draw on the board, it's going to lean more towards like all these broadways with a flush draw blocker. It's going to have like weak flush draws betting, stronger ones doing some checking, you know, that kind of thing. But now that there's no flush draw on the turn, it creates a weird dynamic where like, where are we going to get our bluffs from? And so it just starts taking it from the bottom of your range instead. And you gotta fire, you know, you gotta triple off a lot of the times with nothing, but that's just how these spots are, especially short stacked. Deep stacked, that's a good question actually. I'm not sure if it'll probably find a little bit less of these bluffs and just good question. Let's see if it like it finds all these bluffs when you're deep, because I've definitely seen that it's like trending that like when you're short stacked you find more like no equity bluffs, or like very low equity bluffs. But like when you're deep stacked, you want to have like a decent draw to like some kind of nutted hand. But like when you're short stacked, sometimes like just an overcard to the board is like good enough to like start firing, even though you have like, you know, you don't have much of a draw. But I guess like a draw to like an overcard is kind of like the nuts when you're short stacked. Okay. Why did it bring this up? Okay, we were gonna see if it's what it looks like deep stacked here. Shit, because I have to open up a different range because the 3 bets are gonna come from different places, so I can't use the same range as a short stack because they use different 3 bets. And they shove some hands. So let's look at 80 effective. What was it again? Big blind versus button. Okay, so button opens, big blind calls, solve with AI, create solution, ace of clubs, king of diamonds. Jesus Christ, I'm on the 4th tab. Okay, whatever. Maybe others will will be quicker. And deuce of spades. What was the action here? In position C bets, and they call ace of hearts on the turn. Alright, so let's see what kind of bluffs we find in position here on the turn, now that we're 80 effective instead of 25. Okay. So it's pretty common that you don't want to like overbet paired boards. So I'm not surprised to see it only betting pot here. But yeah, it's still going with the low, you know, the garbage suited hands that just are at the bottom of our range. That's good to know. I actually saved that. Effective, still a similar strategy, I guess. I mean, let's see how they differ, if I can find anything. Looks the same. I guess button is doing a little bit less value betting. They're checking some weak ace-x here. Deep stacked, whereas you're betting all of them when you're short, except for like ace deuce, but that's, you know, it's slow playing the full house, which makes sense short stacked. I mean, it's a little nice. It's better to slow play something like ace king. I mean, ace deuce, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's good. Because even you're still going to get like another call from like a king on another street, but then you get some value from like big blind's bluffs on the river, which is nice. Because they're going to have a lot of gut shots on this flop. They're going to have all the queen jacks, jack tens, queen tens, 5-4, 4-3, 5-3, you know, that kind of stuff. So if we slow play, we do get some bluffs out of them on the river if those hands like miss and don't get paired. But yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, on the rainbow turn, you just kind of, if there's like not enough draws for you to have, like we have a very wide range of hands here, right? And we're gonna have a decent amount of value, but you know, in theory, you want to back up your value with some bluffs. And if you only pick bluffs here that can hit like a hand, like a straight draw, or like, you know, 5-4, 5-3, 4-3, those are all betting pure, right, on the bottom right here because they have a draw. But like, surprisingly, it's checking a lot of the Broadway draws, which I would have probably bet too much myself. And good to know. Jack 10's nice because it folds out, you know, stronger Broadway draws that they have on the flop. But yeah, you run out of bluffs to, you know, to balance out your value. You know, you don't have to do that, but it's because like it's unless you're consistently making a mistake, it's gonna be kind of hard for your opponents to pick up on it unless they have like a lot of showdown on you. There's a ladybug on my wall. I think that's a ladybug. I don't know. Anyway. Anything else to add to this? Interesting double barrel spot, okay. Hit the bottom hands that have no draw more. Said that already. I think population folds King X here more than in theory. So, let's see if I can go back to the original spot here. I can't. Great. Okay. So I think population folds King X here more than in theory. So we'll see how much they're supposed to call versus what I think is happening, but you know, everybody's different. Also learn thin value betting spots. For example, King Queen wants to triple off here, so with the ace coming on the turn, King Queen, King Jack want to bet again for value. We're back to 25 effective here. So I think I normally miss those. I would probably check those back a lot, so I guess I need to find those a little bit more. But I don't think the value is that high in betting them. Yeah, so like, yeah, I remember looking at this. So the EV difference between check and bet is pretty much the same, so checking is not bad. It's more of like a range balancing thing, I guess. I mean, it's probably like 0.5% or like less than that better to bet than check, but it's like pretty, it's not the end of the world if you miss these, I think, but I thought it was interesting we triple barrel King Queen here. But yeah, if we bet 75%, we'll see King X is supposed to call a lot. Especially the low King X, because they like unblock draws more, I suppose, or they unblock bluffs more, is what I mean, not draws. But yeah, I think the EV in these are very player dependent. And I think most of the time people are not going to find these, you know, this 8-6 suited bluff on the turn here. So like, I think you're very comfortable just folding every king on the turn in real life. I mean, King Queen is pretty valuable. I guess like I wouldn't fold King Queen King Jack, but like how many of these do you think people are finding? Like not a lot, right? Like I don't know. Because once you start to like strip away bluffs, the EV of like these thin calls like go way down very quickly. So I mean, I could like node lock and see like, I guess we could do it really quick. Let's just start checking some of these, you know. Okay, we're gonna lock that so they don't change. And now we bet 75% with a tighter range, and you can see quickly everything starts folding almost. King Queen's still a call, but it's definitely less value. And and I still have some bluffs here. Like, do you think, you know, are people finding the Queen 6? You know, I could take these out and then, but I would think maybe people like bet the broadways a little more just because they think, oh, I have, you know, some, like I can make a hand. I think that goes through people's minds. Like, I can make a hand, so I'll bluff with like my Queen 10 here, my Queen Jack. But you get the point. Once they don't find these like bluffs, everything just starts folding. You just only call with ace-x. Okay. Next, I was doing some mystery bounty work. Actually, I want to check Discord real quick. So I want to see if anyone responded to me because I asked a question in there. No. Okay. My question was, so in regular PKOs, the value of your bounty, or the value of one starting bounty, will increase throughout the tournament. So what I mean by that is, at the start of the tournament, a bounty is worth about 25% of your starting stack, and towards the very end, like when you're on the final table, they go all the way up to being worth roughly 50% of your starting stack. And so in between 25 and 50% is where the value of your bounty is throughout the tournament. And then depending on if it's early or late, it changes a little bit. So I was trying to find out if it's the same concept in mystery bounties, because it's quite a big difference the way I calculate the average bounty on the when you're in the money of the mystery bounty. If I miscalculate this, it's quite a difference. So I need to figure that out as soon as I can. So I took some screenshots of the lobby here, and I was just doing some math, asking some questions. Alright, next one here. Oh, I remember this. This was a massive punt by me. Okay. So the spot I had was not the same as this, but this was the closest I could find. So in this spot, under the gun open jams for 13 big blinds, which is a pretty tight range because they're going to have some open raises as well. But yeah, they jam. Button calls, and big blind jams. There's 69 big blinds, so we already have 13 committed, and we have to call 56, and there's 26 in the middle, so quite a bit like dead money in the middle already. And in a similar spot, I called sevens, which is really bad, but like, it wasn't these tight positions also. It was like button, small blind, big blind or something. Hey, what's up, Zachary? I saw you got into the bounty course on Raise Your Edge. Good to see you in there. I think later in Mystery, the bounties would increase more depending on the average. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, nice. It's it can be a tough concept to first get into the PKOs, but once you start learning fundamentals, I feel like it's really not that bad. I actually feel like I felt like there was they had the final table bounty tournaments on ACR, so like only the final table is paid, but 75% of your it's a knockout, so it's not a PKO, it's a knockout. But when you knock them out, you get 75% of their buy-in, opposed to like a PKO where it's 50%. So like at the start of the tournament, everyone's bounty's worth like 75 big blinds. It's like insane. And you know, we start with a 100 big blind stack, and like people are just like, they have, even regulars, no clue what they're doing. Like they don't understand how much dead money's in the middle. They're playing as if it's like a regular MTT, or like I don't understand. I'm trying to think of like examples where people are really messing up. Like just not jamming. They're just like not understanding. Like how much of a bounty is on their head. And they're like 3-betting way too small. Like you think like a 3x, like you're not gonna fold anything when your bounty is worth like 75 big blinds. I'm not gonna fold your 3x bounty or your 3x 3-bet, right? Like pretty much anything. You're supposed to like size up everything. You're supposed to jam when you're a lot deeper. And just, I don't know, everybody, including regulars, were just completely making a mockery out of it. I thought like nobody was playing even close to well. I thought I had like a massive edge. I think I'm gonna try to play those more. Hey, what's up, Tonka? $100% bounty, nice. What's wild on WPTs, I see many people jamming a lot when covered for like 40 big blinds. Garbage, but then knitting it up when covering. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I just find it like, sometimes I find it so insane that like people are willing to like spend their money and not have any clue what's going on. But I mean, obviously that's a great thing, but like I have a hard time like picturing their headspace. Like I'm gonna invest thousands of, I'm gonna put, I know they're having fun, I guess that's their headspace, but I just don't get the gambling thing that much. Like you can use your money for so much more fun. Like let's say you're gambling as a hobby and you lose like $1,000 in a month or something. Like, you're spending money you can afford, but it's still like, it still adds up. Like, you know how much I feel like you can spend that money on something and just get so much more fun out of it. I don't know. Kind of a dumb thought, because it's like you can have fun whatever you want to do, right? But it's just like when you start adding money into it, it's like you gotta be careful, I guess. Okay, anyway, who cares? So I called sevens like a complete moron here. Just punting my money away. But it wasn't the same spot. It was button opening, or button open shoving like 12 or something. Small blind. I was in the small blind and I flat called, and then the big blind jammed for like roughly this amount, and I called off with sevens. So I mean, it's a massive EV loss, but it's still a good spot. Like I'm glad I saved it, because now I know like most of these spots are like jacks plus and ace king. I just thought like pairs would hold up a lot here, because a lot of the times you see like pairs always calling off versus like imagine you open raise, someone 3-bets, and then or you 3-bet and somebody 4-bet, all like 4-bet jams all in for like 50 big blinds. A lot of the times, if you choose to 3-bet pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, they call off the jam. So I took that knowledge and applied it here, and thinking like all my, most of my pairs that call off here or call the original all in would call off the jam, but clearly not. Like minus 2.5 is massively bad. And I think I have a few spots here where so this is another spot. So now under the gun jams for 13, low jack calls, button jams. So these are tighter positions. And now low jack is even folding queens here, which I thought was interesting, because I would never fold queens here, or jacks, or ace king offsuit. So these are just things you gotta study a few times to understand. I mean, not even really understand. So like, it's just, if we look at their ranges, if he's jamming a certain range, you want to call off with a slighter, tighter range, because he has fold equity, right? And when you call off, you should, in theory, they know what he's jamming all in. Like, we know he's jamming this. But in practice, you might verse a random guy who's just jamming his jack 8 suited because it's his favorite hand or something. But yeah, I was surprised to see queens and ace king folding here. So I thought that was good to look at. The button's jamming range here is, we just looked at this, but queens plus, ace queen suited. So it makes sense to fold queens if, jacks isn't even always going in here. If queens is the bottom of their range, of course we're going to fold some queens. We got to be slightly tighter than them. That's usually how it works. Okay. So next one. Everybody's a nit. Yes, I agree. Except for the people that are not. They are definitely not nits. Some people are crazy. Because they're so rich. Whale life. Yeah, I mean, if you have the giraffe hand, I mean, if you have 6-9, 9-6, I mean, how do you just not 3-bet to 6.9 big blinds and call off a jam? I mean, how do you not? Okay, so alright, so the new spot. I think we're a little over halfway done. Okay, we're moving. Gotta go to bed soon. It's almost midnight for me. Big blind, or button versus big blind. 20 effective. 10-9-7 suited. Button is c-betting. Big blind calls. Turn is the jack. 4-liner on the board. It goes check check. Queen of diamonds on the river, completing the ace king straights for imposition and the flush. Big blind leads, and button. This might be a dumb spot. Like, I just got stuck in a rabbit hole and wanted to see like what we raised versus as a bluff versus a lead here. Is that what I was doing? Let me see. Oh, no, okay. Oh, so versus a lead here, in game I folded aces. So we bet the flop. Jack brings in the straight on the turn. And then the queen brings in the flush. Big blind donks, or not donks, but like leads for small here. I guess you can call it a block bet. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And I folded aces here. And I guess I wanted to see if that was good or not. Oh, I had aces with a diamond here, so I blocked the flush. So I was like, I think in game I was thinking, do I call because I block some value? Do I bluff here because I, you know, for the same reason? Because the queen not only brings in the diamond flush, but it brings in ace king, which big blind doesn't have. That's not as important short stack though. You can just, you know, go broke with a weaker hand when you're short stack compared to deep stacked. But so I folded ace of diamonds, ace of spades, thinking people don't find enough bluffs like 7x. So on this board you're supposed to bluff some 7x on the river, which I don't think people find too much. I think it's pretty obvious that people like bluff their missed clubs though. Like if you're in the big blind with like 5-3 of clubs, I think it's a pretty obvious bluff for anybody. But I don't think people are finding the 7x bluffs that much, especially if you haven't studied. It's pretty what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like unnatural to bluff pairs, I think, as like a recreational. But this spot more than calls for it, I would say. Having a club isn't good for calling. So if I'm gonna call the block bet here from the big blind on the river, I really don't want to have a club in my hand. Why? Because that's where most of his bluffs come from, right? So I guess I really don't want to call a hand like ace jack offsuit with a ace of clubs, or even the jack of clubs. No, jack of clubs don't matter, but ace of clubs would matter. Ace jack's not even in the range. It's probably because it's being jammed somewhere. Oh, we might continue betting it on the turn, but that's not what I was trying to get at. Just if you're gonna have a call, we see aces on the bottom here. Okay, so maybe that's what I was getting at. So on the bottom right, these are all the different combos of aces, and it likes to call, especially with the diamond in our hand. The EV goes up there. Calling with a club is actually losing. So having a club in your hand is losing. And then if you have the ace of diamonds and the ace of clubs, it likes bluffing. Not really that important to like apply, but it can be good to like study and understand, and over time you have a more natural you have a more natural understanding of blockers where you can start applying it in your play. But like it's it's good to understand blockers is my point. And that's why I wrote, having a club isn't good for calling. Because look, calling with aces with a club and a diamond, minus 0.13. But calling, which I guess these two are the best ones, 0.08. So, 0.25 difference because of blockers is, it's not a lot, but it adds up. Definitely adds up. Okay, next spot. Under the gun 1 opens, big blind calls. We have the 9-9-4 flop. I think I copied a hand I played, so I don't think in theory it wants to bet one big blind on the flop. But the guy I played with did, so I changed it to match that. I think you're supposed to, or it prefers to bet like 20% or 25% here, one of the two. But one big blind is pretty much the same thing. So under the gun 1 versus big blind 40 effective, only raising the worst 4x. Oh, I remember this spot. Okay, and can simplify and call all. I raised 4 deuce of spades, so it actually likes to raise 4 deuce of spades, but I think just because I see that it likes to do that, I don't think it was a good play by me. Because I think I'm raising a lot of 4x here, and at 40 effective, you're supposed to add call, like you're supposed to have a calling range. Like you see a lot of the green. A good portion of our range is calling, 41% compared to raising only 28% of the time. It's at 40 effective stack depth, and I think these are shorter here. So this is 30 effective. This is the cutoff. So thresholds are very good to understand. So once you get to 30 effective and less, it pretty much only likes to raise. It does like to call a little bit here, but like once you go to like 28 effective, 26 effective, you're going to see like 0 calls. So it's pretty good to understand that on these paired boards, when you're less than 30, just check raise your pair. If you have any 4 here, just raise your pair. But if you're deeper, you want to add some calls. What else can I say? Nothing. Okay. Oh, 69 big blinds. Oh, in the sim it was 69 big blind all in. I see what you're saying now. Okay. So this one we're 35 effective. Under the gun c-bet. The same board as before, and big blind raises. Under the gun calls. 5 of diamonds on the turn, and then we want to slow down pretty much all our 4 and 5x. I am kind of interested to see if we continue firing on a shorter stack, so I am going to open this. It's too much of a I don't even know what word to use. Quander. I'm wondering too much. Too much of an itch to find out. Okay, so let's make this. Let's make it like 20 effective. So after the raise, the stacks are at 18. C-bet. We go for the raise and see what I was talking about. Now we're 20 effective and every hand raises. So good fundamental to understand. Under the gun calls. What was it? 5 of diamonds or something? 5 of diamonds. Let's see if we bet a 4 or a 5 here. Okay, we do. So that's really good to know. Ka-ching. So we double barrel 4 and 5x as a short stack, but check turn. I don't need to say that because we already know we're betting the turn, but check as deeper stack, roughly greater than 30 effective. Okay, beautiful. So in this spot we're 35 effective and we slow down the 4s and the 5s. Now we're 20 effective and we bet them all pretty much. So good stuff. Okay, next one. We're almost done. So this is button versus big blind, 60 effective. Button c-bets like a third pot. Big blind calls. Turn is a king of hearts, bringing the overcard and the flush draw and some more straight draws. Is that true? Okay, so it brings the overpair and the flush draw. Big blind checks. Button bets pot here, which makes sense. I don't think you want to overbet this card because it's a it's like a board changing card. Even though it's like a good card for you, I think it's also not terrible for the big blind. Like if this king was a like a deuce of diamonds or like a 5 of diamonds, 5 of spades even, I'm pretty sure we're gonna overbet the turn, but these kind of turn cards we don't want to bet super large. The reason why I'm not 100% sure, I'm pretty sure it's because it's a board changing card essentially. Even though it seems to be like more favorable for us, it just doesn't like to like overbet for whatever reason there. So the button bets bet pot on the flop on the turn, and big blind responds like this. So let me see my notes here. So we're calling open-ended straight draws for pot or less. Ace 10 off is bad with a heart. So button double barrels for pot. 10-9. Looks like 10-9 wants to raise some, but like it's pretty close to folding. I think if you're versing someone who bets less than pot here, you want to continue them in some way, either by raising or calling. But Queen 10 is still a strong call here. And then Ace 10's not that bad without a heart. But I think if I looked it up, I think Queen 10 off is probably worse without, or worse with a heart as well. And I think the idea behind that is you don't want to have a heart in your hand because you want you want the button to be bluffing with some kind of heart, which is the idea. So if you have a heart in your hand, it's less likely they have a bluff. That's where these kind of EV shifts differ between blockers. I could open it up, but just take my word for it. It's not worth really reviewing again for me. Hijack. So this is 20 effective. Hijack opens, big blind calls. Okay. Well, this was a good spot, kind of. I mean, I've studied this before, but it was a good spot to review for me. So even though we're 20 effective, we can bet large on this flop. Where before studying it, I would think you would always bet small here. But the reason being is the big blind doesn't have 5 deuce offsuit. So literally just because of that fact, this board becomes a lot better for us, and it's wet. So there's a flush draw, there's multiple straight draws, right? So generally on wet boards, you can size up. Not always, but very often, I would say. So because the big blind doesn't have 5 deuce offsuit in their range, we're going to size up. This is the sizing it preferred, a 49% bet on the flop. Yep, they don't have 5 deuce off. Ace deuce 3 though, and ace 5 deuce, same texture. We bet small because big blind has the 4-3 offsuit and the 5-4 offsuit in their pre-flop range. So and that's offsuit combos are 12. Is it? It's not 16, right? It's 12. But yeah, because of these offsuits combos in their range, making the nut straight, we want to size down. I can actually change the board here to show as well. What was I looking at? I thought I was going to look at something else, but we'll just change the board just to illustrate what I'm talking about. So the big blind is going to defend 5-4 offsuit, right? But they defend 5-4 offsuit, but they don't defend 5 deuce offsuit. So on the previous board, we bet large on the flop. Now that the big blind has a little bit more of advantage on this flop, it chooses to bet small. So pretty good to note this, because I think the better you get at understanding the flop texture, the better you can size your bets, and in the end just, you know, play better than the field. I mean, a lot of people are just, you know, kind of auto c-betting small, but there's a lot of big betting on the flop happening, and people just mostly don't understand that. So if you do, you're winning against the field in that spot, which is where money comes from, right? Okay, so let's let me see. Okay, definite leak. Pay attention to raise size. Call any offsuit hand with a heart. Even king 9 off. So what happened here? Hijack versus big blind 20 effective. We c-bet the ace 4-3 and big blind raises the flop. I think the solver preferred to use a larger size than 3.9 here, but my opponent chose this size, so I changed it. I had king 10 off, I think, with the king of hearts, and I folded, which is, I guess, pretty bad. Also, I was very surprised any diamond combo calls versus the raise. Even like 10-8 of diamonds calls versus a check raise here. So I guess I'm gonna mess around with a different sizing from the big blind and see how big they have to go before we start folding these things. Where are we? Okay. So look, so The big blind check raises us on the flop, and we're supposed to continue with 10-8 of diamonds. You see that on the bottom right? 10-8 is a call. 9-7 diamonds is a call. These are all calling, which is, you know, maybe common knowledge to you, but I was definitely folding some of these for sure. Obviously, you call the Broadway ones. I think that's a little bit more natural because you have like the backdoor straight draw to go with it as well. But I think calling Jack-8 of diamonds here is a lot less natural. But you're also versus a small check raise size. So let's see. So they use 30% here. I think the solver wanted to go like 40 or something. So let's check out 40. So now we're versing a bigger check raise size. Let's see if we still defend these hands. So this is actually the threshold, it looks like, for the non. So Jack-10 diamonds, you know, Queen-10 diamonds, clear calls still. But like Jack-9 of diamonds, these are like just barely profitable for this size. So you also start to fold a lot of these Broadway hands with a heart. Sometimes you even fold these Broadway hands with a heart if you have a diamond as well, because if you look at the flop, Ace 4-3, you have 2 hearts, 1 diamond. A lot of the big blind's bluffing range is going to have, you know, like a backdoor diamond hand, maybe like, you know, like Queen 5 of diamonds, Jack 5 of diamonds, something like that. So it's actually pretty bad to have like a diamond in your hand when calling. It's not always bad, but it's usually going to be lower EV. So sometimes, you know, it might be a call, but it's going to be worse than without having it. Call any offsuit hand with a heart, even King-9 off versus the small size that I originally started with. And again, I'm just regurgitating what I just said. Diamond is bad to have, even if accompanied by a heart. And then we call any backdoor diamond combo. Okay, so we went over that. 2 left. Okay. Normally I don't finish these because I have to go somewhere, but there's nowhere to go now but bed. Going to bed. Okay, well that's a lot of notes. Alright, this might not be over yet. Okay, so hijacks. Same board, it looks like 20 effective. Hijack C bets. Was it hijacked before? It was. Okay, so same board. Now Big Blind uses the theoretical sizing. So this is the sizing the solver wanted to go with, which is 4.5. My opponent, though, only went 3.9, so which is not bad. Okay, so they raise, hijack. I don't know what's going on here. Previously, I'm just gonna read my notes. Previously, I used a raise size used by villain in game. Okay, I just said that. Here's a theoretical optimal size. I just said that. Oh my god, am I just gonna repeat? Am I just writing or repeating everything I just said? But the offsuit combos with a heart. Oh my god, this is just. Also, population will be overweight value. Okay, so this is a good note. This is not something I said already. So when the big blind check raises here, and you're playing online, they're probably not going to find as many bluffs, right? As a solver would. So you have to be even more careful, and like maybe you can fold these Jack-9 of diamonds, you know, versus population, because they're just gonna, you know, you're supposed to slow play your 2 pairs at this stack depth. People just raise them anyway because they don't understand that. People might not find like the like the queen 5 of diamonds bluff here or something, or like the 5-8 of diamonds, or like, you know, something like that. They might not find those bluffs. So that's something to keep in mind when you're calling a raise, because if they don't have as many bluffs as they're supposed to, our calling range is going to be tighter than what is shown in front of us. So just because the solver tells us we're right doesn't mean we're doing well in practice versus like a different response, a different strategy. We're not playing against the strategy the solver thinks we're playing against. We're playing against, you know, random people who don't know what they're doing. So it's good to understand what like the general population does, because then you can kind of apply that if you don't have notes on somebody. So I think population will be overweight value here, more likely, making it even worse of a call. But good to know how to continue versus good or aggro players. Also interesting to note, okay, I don't remember this, our big offsuit ace-x hands with the ace of hearts gain a good amount of EV jamming, as well as pocket fours and ace 4. All these hands I would have previously thought made slow playing even better. So yeah, versus the check raise, it actually wants to have some jams. Very weird jam with pocket 10s. I don't really understand where that's coming from. I think it was 10s with a heart. I'm not sure. I guess I'll open it up and then. But yeah, it actually wants to jam 4s in position, which is very surprising to me. Like ace 4, pocket 4s, ace king, ace queen, ace jack off at the ace of hearts. Really likes jamming, and it picks up a good amount of EV by doing so, which I was very surprised at, because I thought like that made, like, having an ace 4 here, a pocket 4s, or like an ace king offsuit with like a ace of hearts, I thought those kind of hands would be even better to slow play, just because like you're so rarely gonna be outdrawn that slow playing becomes okay. But in this spot, it just likes ripping it, and I think it's because you get some calls from hands that might not give you the rest of their stack on previous streets, which is my guess. But I guess we could change the stack depth and see if it likes doing this, set up deeper stack. But like ace 4, I mean the EV difference is pretty good, like 0.25. That's like a 3.5–4% increase in EV jamming ace 4 here versus a raise. Ace king off with the ace of hearts, 0.44. That's like 7% EV gain, if I'm doing my math right in my head. I mean, 7%'s a lot. Let's see what we want to see. 10. I don't understand what this thing is thinking. The solver must be having a bad day. I don't understand this. Why jam 10s and not 9s? What is... How does it just choose 10s randomly here? It's probably some blocker thing, but like where... It's not even worth my time looking at. Sometimes you can just waste your time looking at dog shit. You come out 30 minutes later and you're like, I just learned the dumbest thing I've ever studied. You'll never apply it, maybe like once in like a couple months, and then you'll forget about what you learned anyway, because it never happens. Okay. But yeah, I thought this was interesting. It's not so much with the ace queen here, but like pocket fours. For some reason, pocket fours with a... I'm trying to understand the blockers here and why certain combos wants to call versus raise. Also another thing that's like kind of a waste of time. But yeah, it's just surprising like to see the EV gain in these hands for jamming. Like these are the kind of hands where I feel like I would have thought to slow play the most in position. So, but it does want to slow play aces. I mean, that makes more sense. We unblock, or we block like all their a lot of their value. This big blind's supposed to raise a lot of ace-x, I think, on the flop here. Well, not as much as I thought. Huh. I'm surprised we're not raising ace-10, ace-9. I would have raised all these. Normally, like short stacked, you're supposed to raise your top pair a good amount on the flop. Okay. I think if I change the flop around, I think we're mostly gonna see top pair being raised, but I think maybe the ace high flop is a little different. Anyway, what else did I want to look at here? I don't know. Let me see what I wrote again. Okay, that's it. That's it. Alright, last one. We're almost done. Hijack versus button. 100 effective. Okay, we got a deep stack. Deep stack hand, my favorite. Definitely study these less, because I'm still not bad deep stack, but it's a less common spot in tournaments because you normally become short stack pretty quickly. But I do remember this spot. Something with the jack was like interesting here. The jack on the turn. Oh, this was a... Oh. I must have not finished this hand. Okay. That's probably it, because this one's unfinished, but I guess I can go over what I wrote so far. I remember doing the rest of this. Where's my notes? I thought I did another one with this hand. Something about the jack was like very interesting here. I guess I was surprised in with this screenshot that the jack of diamonds leads to hijack donk betting a lot, which I'm pretty surprised about. So this spot, hijack versus button. Hijack opens, button flats, 100 effective. And on the flop we check, and button bets 33%. We call. The turn is a jack of diamonds, and we do quite a bit of leading. And I don't really have a lot of leading in my game, but I still study the spots because, one, you verse people that do lead, so even if you're not going to do it a lot yourself, it's still good to understand because you're going to play against it sometimes. And two, I think if I keep studying these spots over time, I can start adding it to my game where I feel like it's worthwhile to. And I do have some leading spots, but it's usually on like very obvious spots, like when the board pairs and I'm in the big blind and like it's a card that benefits me like strongly. But I tend not to like donk like straight completers or like more common two pair like cards that I see sometimes getting donked. I don't know. That spot's less confusing, but this I found surprising, that the jack of diamonds here on the turn causes the hijack to want to lead 28% of the time. And I can think of one reason is that the hijack has pocket jacks pre-flop, where the button probably raises that some. 100 effective, it might almost like pure call jacks in position, so, but not versus hijack. We're definitely going to raise it some. So I think that's where this maybe is coming from. It adds a set to our range, to hijack's range, where a button doesn't have it, would be my guess. But I'm not 100% sure on why all the different leading spots happen. Button. So yeah, I mean, it has jacks 70% of the time in this spot. I would probably mix jacks pre-flop here. I like to mix a lot of these middling pairs. But like for a human to like randomly find these 70% frequency is just like impossible, I think. I think it's so unnecessary to like try to learn these things. I think at the most, like if you think a combo is like worth mixing and you want to do like, you know, do something 50% of the time, 50% not, I think that's like more than complicated enough in my opinion to, I don't think it's worth getting any more complicated than that. But yeah, so hijack's gonna have pocket jacks here more than button, so I guess it's just like slightly, you know, slightly better card for them, which leans towards leading. But I'm definitely not going to ever lead here in practice because I wouldn't know why. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, unless I have a strong understanding of something, I try not to do it, because I think if you're trying to do something you don't understand, you're more likely to make a mistake than make an accurate play. So if you just avoid the spot altogether, at least I think you're going to make less mistakes. It's probably how that works. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We're all done. I'm going to play the next 2 days, so hopefully I have some good stuff to stream. I might even turn it on tomorrow morning, see how I feel, just for a few hours while I'm jumping into my session. Play some early game stuff on stream, but we'll play it by ear, or whatever. I don't know what the fucking saying is. Ear, beer, cheers. Alright, I am going to upload this to YouTube as well. I've uploaded the last few of these. I don't really know how to grow on YouTube, but I'm just going to upload a few videos every once in a while. It's not like I have to do anything. It's like I just upload the VOD. It's not like I'm putting in a lot of editing, so yeah, that's it. You can also find it on the VODs too after I go offline. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.